We are on page 16, and we're going to be talking about changing fractions to decimals. And a big reason for this is to compare them to each other, or just to have a sense of how much money that would be, because we can wrap our head around money more than we can fractions sometimes. So we're going to talk about one way to change fractions to decimals, and this only works if your denominator, your bottom number, is compatible to 100, meaning you can multiply 4 times a whole number to get a denominator of 100. Okay, so on all of these, 4 times 25 goes into 100. So whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. We have to keep it equivalent. So 1 times 25 is 25. All right, so how we're going to write this is 25 hundredths, so we're going to write this as a decimal, so it would just be 25 hundredths. So here, 5 times 20 is 100, so 3 times 20 is going to be 60. 60 hundredths could be written like this, or we could get rid of the extra 0. Those are the same decimal, or the same equivalent, I should say. So this 25 times 4 is 100. 6 times 4 is 24, so that would be 24 hundredths, 24 hundredths. So if we were going to put these in order from least to greatest, all right, these decimals could help us. We have 25 cents, we have 60 cents, and we have 24 cents. So this is going to be the smallest amount of money here. Then we would go to 25 cents is the next biggest, and then 60 cents is the last. All right, and up here is just a reminder that this is going to be the ones place, this is going to be the tenths place, this is going to be the hundredths place. So one way that we can compare fractions, and I only suggest if we have two fractions, all right? If you have 4 or 5, I would change them to decimals or do what we are about to do on the next page. So this is commonly called butterfly. I know in 5th grade they called it the butterfly. I've heard it called sword fight. I've called it called fraction battle. But you are cross multiplying and then comparing the products. You have to go up when you cross multiply. So we're going to put a circle here so we can put a greater than or less than sign. So we have 5 times 3 is 15, 10 times 1 is 10, and this literally makes a multiplication sign. That kind of reminds you what you're doing. And so we're going to compare those products. So we've got 10 and 15. This one's going to be smaller than this, so 1/5 is less than 3/10. So again, if you have two fractions, that could be a good way of comparing them. If you have more than 2 that you're putting in order like this, I would change them to decimals or find a common denominator like we did with the 100. On this one, we're going to cross multiply. 7 times 4 is 28. 9 times 3 is 27. This is just a little bit smaller than this fraction, so 3/7 is less than 4/9. All right, on page 17, comparing and ordering fractions. So a fraction bar, okay, this little bar right here, this line, is one way to represent division. Okay, this can be used to convert or change a fraction to a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator. So remember, if you're at home watching this video, you are just, if I'm going too fast, you are going to pause it when you need it. So example, A over B, this is a fraction. I can also read it like a division problem. A divided by B, which is here. And if we have this, it's going to be A divided by B. 3/4 are 3 divided by 4. Or we have 3 divided by 4. Okay. One thing in 5th grade that you learn to remember is that the cowboy rides the horse. And at the end of the day, the cowboy goes into the house. It's just a way to remember it if you have a really hard time remembering that. So we have 3/5, which means 3 divided by 5, because we're just going to read it top to bottom, 3 divided by 5. And then we've got 3 divided by 5, cowboy goes in the house. And then the verbal description in words is going to be 3 divided by 5. Then we have this one, 5 divided by 4. So if I was to write it like a fraction, I would go top to bottom, 5 divided by 4. Here, we would put the cowboy in the house, 5 divided by 4. And then 5 divided by 4. All right, this one, it's 1 divided by 3. So 1 divided by 3, or 1 divided by 3 is a fraction. And then we're going to write 1 divided by 3. 3 divided by 2, so top to bottom, 3 divided by 2, 3 divided by 2, and then 3 divided by 2. Cowboy goes in the house. All right, so we're going to convert the following fractions to decimals by dividing. All right, so we did this on Friday, so this is just a quick little review. So 1/2, if you know that 1/2 is 5/10 or 50 cents, go ahead and just write that. Okay, you do not have to show your division. All of us should know that by now. If not, you're going to say 1 divided by 2. Okay, cowboy goes in the house. 2 goes into 1 0 times. We put decimal, we drop a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and now I am finished. And I got my 5/10. So 9/10, since if there is ever a 10 or 100 right here, you could always just write tenths or hundredths. Okay, again, you can do your cowboy horse division, but when it has tenths or 100ths, you go ahead and just write it down. All right, 2/3. So we're going to have 2 divided by 3. 3 goes into 2 0 times. Decimal, drop a 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times. We're going to drop another 0. That's going to keep happening. So this is what we talked about last week. When this is a repeating decimal. So the way that we write a repeating decimal, the 6 was repeating. All right, so if we were to look and we were going to compare these by decimals, this would be 50 cents. I would add a 0 on here. This would be 90 cents. And this would be about 66 cents. All right, if a cash register was rounding this, and we've talked about this in class, that it would be actually 67 cents if it was a cash register rounding it. On this is improper fraction, which means we know it's going to be more than one whole. Okay, so cowboy horse division, 4 goes into 1 time. So 1 times 4 is 4. All right, we're going to put a decimal, and that gives us permission to drop a 0 to keep going. 4 goes into 30 7 times. Drop another 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and now we're finished. This is a terminating decimal with a remainder of 0. So that's going to be equal to 1 75/100. All right, another way to compare fractions and put them in order is to place them on a number line. Okay, this is okay if you don't have fractions that are super close to each other, but in my opinion, I think that making them into decimals, especially if you have ones that are pretty close that you're not sure about, turning them into decimals will also help you place them on the number line if you need that. So 2/5 is going to be not quite a half, so it's going to be a little bit less than a half, so it's going to be in between 0 and 1. -3 and 1/4 is going to be in between -3 and -4, but a little closer to -3. 2 and 1/10 is going to be in between 2 and 3, but closer to 2. 2 and 3/5, since 3 is more than half of 5, there's half, we're going to go a little bit more than half. And then -2 and 3/4 is going to be in between -2 and -3, but a little closer to -3. So again, you can always turn these into decimals if you need help putting them on the number line. And now it's very easy. If you were going least to greatest, you'd start with this number and go this way. If you were going greatest to least, you'd start this way and number them that way. Okay, we're on page 20. So fractions can be also compared using like denominators. Okay, this is probably what you have learned in 5th grade. And sometimes, depending on how hard the division is, the cowboy horse division, sometimes this is a little easier. So you are going to find the least common denominator. And if this is, we'll talk about how to do this, but if this is not super easy to do, I would go ahead and convert them to decimals. So on this one, what they did was they took 6, 5, and 2, all right? And they said, well, what if I say 6 times 5 is 30? Well, 2 will also go into 30. So their least common denominator was 30. So what they did was they converted each of these to have a denominator of 30. And then that was easy for them, since they all had a denominator of 30, to put them in order from least to greatest. And then they rewrote the fractions in their original form. All right, so let's do an example of that. So we're going to put this up here. So we're going to write all of these fractions. And we're going to go ahead and leave where we can have a common denominator here. So I always try to go ahead and look at the largest denominator and see if all of these numbers will go into it. And that's my immediate least common denominator. So 3 will go into 12, 4 will go into 12, and 6 will go into 12. So I'm just going to use 12. Now again, you can always divide these and make them into decimals and make them look like money so that they're easier to put in order from greatest to least. So this one's not going to change. So it's going to stay the same. So multiplying 3 times 4 is 12. So whatever I do here, I'm going to do here. So 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 and 8/12 are actually equivalent to each other, but now we can easily compare them because they both have 12 as a denominator. So 4 goes into 12 times 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. And then 6 times 2 is 12. So 5 times 2 is 10. So if I want to go from greatest to least, okay, greatest to least, I'm going to look for my greatest numerator because they all have a denominator of 12. So 11/12, that's my original. That's going to be first. And then I have 8 or 10. Well, 10's bigger, so I'm going to 5/6 is next. Then we've got 8, which is 2/3. Then we've got 1/4. So that is going to be greatest to least. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and I see that I have an improper fraction. I'm going to go ahead and say 17 divided by 5. And I'm going to go ahead and figure that out as a mixed number so that I can easily compare it to that. So 5 goes into 17 3 times. So 3 2/5. So that right there was 3 2/5. So since they're all 3 as a whole number, I'm just going to take the fractions. Okay, I'm going to take the fractions and write them up here, and we're going to find a common denominator. And again, I'm going to look at my largest denominator, 20, and it looks like 5 and 4, they all go into 20. So that's going to be my common denominator. So 5 times 4 is 20, so 2 times 4 is 8. That's not going to change. This is times 4 times 4. This is times 5 times 5. So now we're going to go greatest to least. So I'm looking at all my numerators since my denominator is the same. This looks like it's going to be the greatest denominator, my 8. So I'm going to go back to 2/5. So that's going to be 3 2/5, which actually was 17/5. So we're going to put that original number. And then my next biggest is going to be 1/4. So 3 1/4. My next one biggest is 1/5. So 3 1/5. And then my smallest was the 3/20. So 3 3/20. So that's going to be greatest to least. All right, on this one, we're going to do, we're going to go from least to greatest. And so when we have -1/2, I'm looking at what they're counting by. The scale is 1 on this because they're counting by ones. Each tick mark is 1. So this right here is going to be halfway between 0 and -1. So that's going to be -1/2 here. 2/3, all right? If we kind of think about where thirds would be, so this would be about 2/3. -1/4. Okay, think of that as quarters. So it's not quite -1/2. So it's going to be about half of that. So -1/4. And then 3/5. So this is what happens when you have two fractions. You're not sure which one's bigger. All right, you can change these to decimals. You can do cowboy horse division, or you can just take those two fractions and you can fraction battle them or butterfly them. Okay, we're going to cross multiply. That's 9, that's 10. So this 2/3 is just a little bit bigger than 3/5, but not by much. It's pretty close. So since this is bigger, it needs to be closer to 1. So this is going to be pretty close right here. So if you were to put those in order from least to greatest, okay, here's the least side of the number line, here's the greatest. So it's going to be -1/2, -1/4, 3/5, and then 2/3. All right, on this one we have -1 1/4. So it looks here like our scale is 2. So if we kind of look halfway, we're going to see that's 1, and that's about -1. So -1 1/4 would be in between -1 and -2, but closer to -1. Okay, -1 1/3. And again, if you don't know which one is going to be larger in the positive world, you can go ahead and fraction battle, but you have to remember that everything is opposite in the negative world. So if you fraction battle these and 1/3's bigger, that means that it's going to be on this side, okay, closer to the -2. So we would have, that would be pretty close. Negative, that's not a very good representation, but I'm kind of running out of room. And then we have 1 3/5, so there's 1. It's a little bit more than halfway to 2, so 1 3/5. And then again, 5/4. If that's hard for you to picture what that is, 4 goes into 5 one time, so that is going to be 1 1/4, which if this is 1, it's going to be close over here. So if we were going least to greatest, we would start on the least side of the number line, and just put them in order from least to greatest. All right, last one. I'm gonna show you with your cowboy horse division how this can be very easily converted to decimals and then easily put in order if we make it look like money. Okay, so we've got Margot over here. We're going to use this over here. Okay, we've got Margot, and we've got 21 25ths. All right, and then we've got Mason, and we've got 17 20ths, and then we've got Marco, and we've got 5 6ths. Okay, so we're going to show some divisions. So we have 21 25ths. So that's red. 21 divided by 25. Cowboy goes in the house. 25 goes into 21 0 times. Put your decimal. That gives you permission to drop a 0. 25. Think quarters. Okay. Think 200. So that would be about 8 quarters would be $2. So that is, we'll go 200. Subtract. Drop another 0 because you don't have a remainder of 0 yet. 25 goes into 100 4 times. And now 21 25ths has equaled 84 cents exactly. And again, we're just making it look like money, so we're comfortable with it. So then we've got 17 divided by 20. 20 goes into 17 0 times. Drop a 0. 20 goes into 170 8 times. I'm going to do my subtraction, drop another 0. That goes into that 5 times. And now I can stop. So 17/20 was exactly 85 cents. Okay, 5/6, 5 divided by 6. So 6 goes into 5 0 times. Decimal, drop a 0. 6 goes into 50 8 times. Drop a 0. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 6 goes into 20 3 times, and it's going to keep repeating. So it's about 83 cents if we were to say how much money it would be. The cash register would actually round that to 83 cents. So we want to go most to least. So greatest to least. So if we look at these, Mason is going to be the greatest. Okay, so Mason is the greatest. And then we've got Margot, and then we've got Marco. So Mason is the biggest. There's only one where Mason is the biggest, then Margot, then Marco. So it's going to be B.